Hello, Mustangs. This is my second video of the day, but I thought it was worthwhile to put together something about the reader's response, a little more detailed. You can click on it and read it, but I thought we could click on it and go through it together. So I'm going to go from Canvas, main page, to modules. And you should see on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever you're looking at this, a link for reader's response Q4. It's quarter 4. So we'll click on that, see what opens up. I don't know about you, but my internet has been slow for the last few days. I think so many people are online during this pandemic that it's actually starting to affect us online as well. It's weird. The whole thing's weird. Anyway, let's see what this does. Okay, so here's your reader's response writing. This is your instructions, and there are some examples in here to show you what you're going to write. It's an informal essay, but it's broken down into parts, 6 different parts. So the first is novel summary. A summary is just what it sounds like. We've had summaries throughout the year. It's a shorter retelling of what you read or what you're talking about. So you should start with the title and the author's name, of course, of the book that you read or that you've read. And then you can talk about the characters, the setting, rising action, climax, resolution. If those things don't sound familiar, then you should go back to your notes and look in probably the very first thing we did at the beginning of this year. Had that heartbeat graph, and we talked about the different parts of the story, how it unfolds, kind of builds up to that climax, that really exciting part, and then eventually it resolves itself. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so tell me about what happens in the story. A couple paragraphs is probably what that'll turn into. Okay, it says at least one paragraph here, so use those as guides throughout. Theme discussion, 1 paragraph. So theme is like something we're supposed to take from the story, something memorable. And the theme for this quarter, instead of letting you tell me about your own theme, is interdependence. Now, when I did this many years ago, each quarter had its own specific theme that we talked about. And we do kind of do that behind the scenes still. But this quarter, we would talk about interdependence. And that's the idea of multiple people working together. They need each other. So here's 2 different ways to address this section. The first is you see it in the story, and you talk about how your characters have to work together. Or you've read the story and you don't see it at all, but you can understand how working together might have been beneficial to the characters in the story. So either talk about how you see it and give examples, or talk about how you don't see it in the story and specifically where it would have been beneficial to the characters. Okay, there's an example here for you. I'm using A Christmas Carol for all of the examples. You cannot use Christmas Carol for this assignment. I didn't put that in the instructions, but I'm saying that now. Since so many of the examples are from Christmas Carol, don't use Christmas Carol. Use something else. The importance of setting kind of stretches over the first and second page here. Please answer the following question in a complete paragraph. How does the setting of your story shape the characters or plot? That means, how does the setting kind of move your characters along or move the story along? Some settings are more important than others. If you think about A Christmas Carol, and here's the example down here, it says at the end of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge is taken to a small forgotten cemetery. The ghost of Christmas yet to come had shown Scrooge the uncaring and even joyful reactions to the death of some cold-hearted person. It wasn't until the ghost showed Scrooge a certain tombstone in that cemetery, however, that he finally understood that the cold-hearted person was himself. So this setting, this particular setting of this story is important because showing Scrooge his own grave in that graveyard had a big effect on him. And you remember that, I'm sure. That's what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be the overall setting, although it could be. It could be something specific within that story. Literary devices. Now this is different. It doesn't say 1 paragraph or at least 1 paragraph. It says list or paragraph. So there's a couple ways to do this. I want you to find examples of figurative language. Pretty simple. The best way to do this is to look for these things as you're reading your story. Look for similes, metaphors, personification, examples, hyperbole, idioms, or even allusion. These are all things we've talked about this year. Look in your notes if you're not sure what they are. Look for those things as you read the story. When you come across something, take a note, post-it note, piece of paper, write down the page, write down what it is, stick it in your book, and that way when you're done with the story, it makes this section really, really easy to do. The one example I'm giving, you need to give me 3 examples. The one example I'm giving says in the opening paragraph of the first day of A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens tells us that old Marley was as dead as a doornail. The narrator makes this comparison, a simile, to assure the reader that Marley is dead and to prove that what Scrooge sees in his home later that night is, in fact, a ghost. So what you're doing, again, is giving me an example of one of these things. In this case, it's a simile. You're telling me where you found it, page 1, and you're explaining what it is. So that's one of the 3 things you need to do for this section. So again, as you find them as you read the story, write them down because it makes it so much easier. It's hard to go back and look for these after you finish the story. It's not impossible. A lot of people do it that way, but it makes it so much more difficult. Vocabulary, same thing. List your paragraph of 3 interesting words, maybe new words you've never heard before or never read before. Okay? I give you one example here. Let's see, it says on page 3 of A Christmas Carol, the narrator describes the weather as biting. According to dictionary.com, biting means nipping, smarting, or keen. In this context, the narrator is telling us that the weather is so cold that it hurts to be outside. So again, you're telling me the word biting. You're giving a definition, including where it comes from, according to dictionary.com. Biting means this. And then you're also explaining. I think that makes a big difference because it shows that you know what it means. In this context, the narrator is telling us that the weather is so cold that it hurts to be outside. Do that 3 times, 3 different words. This is not that hard. Last one is recommendation. The recommendation is whether you like the story or not. It's just a paragraph. It's easy. Did you like the story or not? It's okay to say you didn't like the story, but it's not okay to just leave it at that. If you don't like it, tell why. Why was it bad? Why didn't you enjoy it? Don't just say because you hate to read. Be honest and say what it was about the story that didn't pull you in and interest you. So that's it. That's what this thing looks like. It's not hard. Doesn't take a lot of time. Once you've read the book, this thing is a very, very quick, informal essay. And it's due on Friday, May 22nd. Says it up at the top here. Purple. 75 points. That's more than a typical essay, a little less than AR. That's it. If you have questions, you can ask, obviously. Just kind of follow the same structure, 6 different sections. You can even use these titles as you want to, but then include what you need to include for all of these. You can turn in through Canvas. Everything's going to be turned in through Canvas, obviously. And that's that. Ask questions if you have questions, but the most important thing is find your book, pick it out, read it, or get started, and get started on this as soon as you can so we can get it turned in. And that is that. Thank you very much, Mustangs.